And I was aware while I was playing the role how easily I detached and except when I had to speak, really left the role. I don't know if you noticed, if that was obvious, but I was more in my own process and relating to the experience, to your experience of frozen state. So I'm aware that my armor helps me a lot, and it has its downside, definitely. So I see both just playing that role.
Thank you. And I should have made clear that you can always say no to a role, but you did a lot of good stuff with it for yourself, so thank you. Anybody else?
And I'm not the caller. I'm Margot.
Hi, Margot.
Hi, I'm Maureen. I'm not your boyfriend, your ex-boyfriend. And thank you for including me. And I got such a sense of, we were all getting so much healing out of your work. And as a 52-year-old woman, I have lived through, you reminded me so much of myself and my relationships in early recovery. And if I was going to double for you, I would, I was hoping to hear you say, or what I would have said was, you're so insanely beautiful and competent and capable of being a wife and a mother, aside from your profession. And it's God gives us desires to lead us. So I saw, along with the strength, we can be vulnerable. So thanks.
Your work is really going to inspire me to look at those and not get stuck in those times, because I've got so many that are just layered on top of each other, that in stuck mode and helpless mode, feeling powerless. And I just want to say out loud what I had said to you, that you are perfect just the way you are and completely lovable just the way you are. So thank you for sharing that with me.
Hi, I'm Ricky. I'm not your coworker. As your coworker, I felt that I tried doing everything I could, and I really did not own what you were saying to me, and I don't know if that's in role or not, but in role it was like I did everything that I could. I did care, but there was only so much I could do. As Ricky, I just love what you said about, and I love when Tian was saying, and what's your role in it, and what's your role in it, and what's your role in it. It's easy for me to point fingers at everybody else, but when it comes down to being quiet and saying, what's my part in this, that was really helpful for me. Thank you.
Hi, Elizabeth. My name is Ruth. I'm not your supervisor, but I was honored to be asked to play a role in your drama, and I want to thank you so much for the depth and honesty of your work. It was very meaningful to me this morning. In the role of your supervisor, I felt at some distance from all the drama that was going on with your caller and internally for you. That distance did not feel uncomfortable. Again, as we've heard from your co-worker in role as your supervisor, I didn't particularly own what you threw at me. But I understood that it was coming from a place of pain. As Ruth, the part of your drama that I identified most with was in your relationship with your boyfriend. The most recent relationship that I had was with an active sex addict. And I didn't understand that that's what I was getting myself in for, and I didn't understand how similar the experience of trying to be in relationship with a sex addict is to trying to be in a relationship with an alcoholic. And I speak as an alcoholic in long-term recovery. So the position that you found yourself in relation to this man was very familiar to me, and how difficult that is, and how, I know more than you. I do not want to be in relationship with somebody where I'm feeling like I'm some kind of quasi-therapist rather than a partner. But that's a very old role for me to feel that I'm in. It's very old for me to feel that the men I'm involved with are somehow some kind of project rather than some kind of partnership. And that goes right back to the first significant relationship of my life, which was also, of course, with an alcoholic. A man I still characterize as the love of my life, who committed suicide. And and that set up a very self-destructive pattern for me. You've helped me get some new insight into that this morning, and I want to thank you very much for that. Thank you, Elizabeth.
I felt deeply unhappy, desperately unhappy, if not suicidal. And the woman on the other end of the line chose to diagnose me as not sufficiently suicidal to warrant her time. And I just couldn't help but feel as I was watching, if you had been on the end of the line when I called, I would have had a very different experience. But the other thing that really struck me about your drama was the courage that it took to summon those feelings, but also, and I really identify with this, how hard it is for us to have compassion for ourselves. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sylvie, and thank you so much for your work. And two things came out to me is being sober a long time, I've buried many people in this program, and several of the women that I've worked with over the years who just didn't get it. And the first time it happened, it was like, oh my God, was it something I could have done more, or done more step work, or done something. And it took some distance to see that I couldn't. It was there. I was willing, but. So that was one piece. And the other piece was that my first husband, when I was very, very young, in my starter marriage, I call it, he was a big, big womanizer. And I was constantly competing with that. And for several years, the first couple of years, I really made it about me, like I should be, this enough or that enough or do this enough. If it was only me, if I could do more, I could bring him around. Because when you said he couldn't fight for me, even that last day, and then we already had a child and everything, and I left, and this, I'm still active, but I left. I thought for sure he'd come, to fight, and he's still not capable, and that's years, nothing's changed. He is, I've definitely changed.
Me, when I was younger, I also had a time when I was in a really good place, and you sharing what was going on for you really helped even just bring up what it must have been like for my family and friends that probably felt as helpless as you felt in that type of situation. I felt very, very intense guilt and emotionally overtaken when you were sharing that. And then when you did the drama and seeing you go through your work, I'm like the guilt is like it's less. Seeing you go through your stuff just helped me with that really intense emotion, so thank you.
I appreciated how brave you were and just allowing her to keep letting you go deeper and deeper, taking those risks, because it seemed like you were holding back a lot in the beginning. And at points, I was really feeling helpless because I was back there and directed to stay back there, and I wanted to come in, and I wanted to double, and I wanted to rescue, and so it was interesting to have to contain all that and not just be where you were. And so I'm glad you got to where you were. her at the end.
So you're saying you felt you had to contain and be where she was.
Mm-hmm.
So how did that feel to be where she was?
Oh, it felt hard. It felt stuck. I wanted to be her. I wanted to come in and yell and say stuff like I wanted to go there.
Yeah, but before you went from the feeling to the action, what's in the middle there? The actual experience of being her. Well, stretch out one eye a little. What did it feel like? Besides stuck.
But I had to be present. That's all. I just felt like I have to stay with her. I have to be with you.
Inside yourself, because you were carrying a role.
Yes.
Oh, I see. You were carrying the role that is part of her. But just what did it feel like to be in the role?
It felt hard. It felt hard. I don't have another word. It was just. It felt hard to stay somewhere that I didn't want to be, I guess. And to trust, I guess, that it would get where it needed to go. There were just a lot of parts of it that I resonated with all the way around. I really resonated when you yelled at your supervisor and started to get into the part about numbers and feeling that lack of support and helplessness. I just identified with a lot of it. So I think that's what made it so much harder too. But there's a lot of, we've had a connection since yesterday, but thank you for choosing me.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for your work today. Your share actually helped me connect to what I related to the most from my own life, which is having to tolerate that stuck place. I think the story I told myself to survive my family of origin was that it doesn't have to be like this. If my mom would just do this, or my dad would just do that, or if I would just do such and such, we could live a happy life, that we're not victims of the circumstances, that there's a way out, and I hold the key. And as life has progressed, the reality is sometimes we're in situations where there is no key, where the way out is just to accept that things are tough or not fixable. And that scenario, one where, he didn't call the hotline, his sister did. So it was an impossible situation. He wasn't fixable because he didn't want to be fixed. And that describes my family, right? And so the analogy, the relating is that's you or then me and my family. And having, that feeling, staying with that long enough to be okay anyway. That's been my work of late. Just staying there, because I had to rewrite the whole script. It was so humiliating to realize that the whole construct that I had based my action, my life on, that I could fix this if only I were in charge. It's really not fixable. It's just, that's not the key. The key is, and what you said about the husband being a project, what made my husband not a project was when I stopped seeing him as one. I've been married almost 20 years. Really tough and also really good. And the key to living in that relationship was no longer seeing him as any more of a project than I am. And just staying with it. So your share just now really helped me connect to the difficulty of just staying in it, Anyway, so.
Ironically, the scenario that I chose, there were so many of them really, and yet I couldn't find one, but I finally wrote one down where my son 2 years ago was 302'd. And I'm sure everybody in this room, I don't want to, he was involuntarily committed. And it was by a therapist who he had only seen once. And ironically, when you were talking, I didn't even make the connection. I mean, that's how much I've dissociated from it, and yet it has pretty much ruled my life since then, because the repercussions were just horrible. And then I made the connection after our break, and I was like, holy shit, like I can't believe how much that I have, dissociated from that. And I knew that it was still painful for me. And again, it wasn't a one-time thing. It was, it affected every aspect of his life and my life and our family's life. And it's so heartbreaking. It's just so heartbreaking on so many levels. And then when I did think about, make the connection, then I was pissed off at you, for being on the other end of the phone and for making the determination or aligning yourself with the therapist. Obviously not personally, Elizabeth, but, for aligning yourself with the therapist and, putting him in this facility and, me going to see him there and not being able to get him out. Anyway, so.
And it also made me realize the role that we have as coworkers. We're all coworkers probably here, and the impact we can have. So I have a lot of gratitude that I have had a lot of good coworkers that have supported me. And I'm very proud to be one of your coworkers.
It feels surreal that in a room full of people I've never met before, that there could be so many strong connections, and that we could go this deep so quickly. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that I'm here. It was sort of last minute that I was coming, and I feel like it's not an accident that we're all here and that I'm here and that I volunteered, and I feel honored that it meant something to other people. So it feels a little selfish. I got a lot of therapy there, and I'm tired.
Yeah, don't try to explain it to anybody.
Okay.
Rest, hot bath, curl up, bowl of popcorn and Netflix. Don't worry about, take it easy, take it. Just to a couple sentences, that's what intergenerational trauma looks like. That the early childhood sets you up for the later experiences so that you wind up, in a sense, recreating what hurt the most and got processed the least. And then the reason it was so interesting, that urge to blame is so natural because it's the child who got traumatized and didn't know what was going on, never made sense of it, and the world was important out there. Children don't even have the psychological development to abstract and see themselves. It takes an ability to abstract mentally, which doesn't come till 12 or so. And even then, it's pretty complicated to conceive of a sense of self. So children just get it straight. So They don't have a separate sense of self particularly. And naturally, it's not even blame. They just transfer, right? The world is, their mother is the world, their father is the world. That's how it goes. So I think when we regress, get traumatized and reenact and move into that child place, we naturally are going, you, if only you changed, if you were different, because there's not enough I in that child place. Not because there was something wrong with you as a child, it was developmental. The I just isn't there yet. Well done. So I thought this might be a good time to do a guided imagery because everybody did a lot of holding and so forth, and maybe in the afternoon, who knows where we'll be. But for sure, I think we could use it now, right? Okay. So the guided imagery is just to, this one is music only. Please be comfortable, and if comfortable is lying on the floor, lie on the floor. Do whatever you want to do to be comfortable. And I'll just, it'll be about 8 minutes or so. I'll just show you how I do it. And yeah, lean up against the wall. Be comfortable. Be as comfortable as you can be. In treatment facilities, of course, there are pillows and blah, blah. And also, I have something I call the creative arts therapy room. And in the creative arts therapy room, it will be in this book on neuropsychodrama, but I like to have corners for everything. Corners for journaling, corners for, it's Montessori's prepared environment. And it doesn't have to be highly monitored. And a corner with a little bunch of pillows where you can do a guided imagery when you want one. A creative arts therapy room. And a performance space where you can sing your song, read your poem, where you can collage, do creative things in a room. Everybody in the same room. So when people do this in treatment, they have this experience together, and then they carry it out with them and do it at home. And it's a transitional object. It's the teddy bear to take home. So we'll just see what comes up. Yeah. Lie comfortably. Close your eyes. Uncross anything that's crossed. And breathe. Mentally scan your body for any stuck places and ask your mind to ask your body to release them. Breathe in relaxation and peace. Breathe out tension, anxiety, and relax. Relax your forehead. Relax your eyes, your temples. Breathe out tension, breathe out stress. Inhale a sense of ease and peace. Relax your jaw. Relax your neck, your shoulders, your chest. Relax your arms, your hands, your fingers and fingertips. Relax your torso, your legs, your calves, your feet. And let the tension drift through your body, through the floor. Feel a cool wave of relaxation moving from your head to your toes.
I'm constantly amazed at how you are able to identify problems within people and bring them out, and it's just amazing. And I've thought a lot about that because it's also a little bit of intimidating, because I go, oh boy, I couldn't do that, you know. And I studied with you a long time ago, and then I came back, we met at a conference, and in between times, before that, and then in between, I had worked with some other psychodramatists upstate, and they did good work, but not to the intensity that you did. And even thinking back, when I first studied with you 20, 25 years ago, I don't remember you doing the level of work you're doing today. And so I've been thinking about that because, you know, when I get out there, I know I don't have the experience and the confidence that you have, and of course I don't have the tremendous belief you have in the process of psychodrama. I mean, it's been your life, you know, and you're really invested in it. So I feel uneasy, and I was thinking about that. What could you tell us that would help us be more confident and particularly help protect the client? I'm thinking of things like where you always say, you know, you're doubling for the protagonist and you say, you know, if that's not right, correct me. So what are some ways we can make sure that we don't go too far or do any harm?
That's a most beautiful question. Am I, okay, thanks. So before lunch, trust God. God heals. Trust somebody has their higher power and it's not me. Somebody's in front of me for a reason. So I'm not working alone and I'm not working randomly. My only job is to help the person in front of me. I can't help anyone who doesn't help themselves. If somebody doesn't meet me halfway, I can't go 3/4 of the way. People who come to group come to see themselves, not me. My job is to facilitate an encounter that they want to have with themselves. Not that they don't come to see me, but it's they want to see themselves. Trust God. Trust myself. I trust myself. And I don't think I have to have all the answers by any means. Sharon Wegscheider years ago said, I wish somebody had told me I could be, she was at the time rather famous, and still have needs. So I have lots of places I can go and be very little and needy and broken and fix myself, and I don't have to be anything. I don't worry about what you're projecting onto me too much. I know I'm supposed to accept a transference and all, but I don't particularly like them. I understand the healing about transference, that a positive transference, you are really is good for the client, but I just get, you know, I'm an ACOA, so I just wait for the negative underside. So I really kind of, I try not to get into other people's heads. And I do see people. I think in another life I would have read tea leaves. I think in another generation when women couldn't work, I'd probably be reading coffee grounds or tea leaves. I mean, I think therapists have a sixth sense. You know, you observe people, and if you don't have an agenda, you see more. If you're willing to see what's there and not what you want to see, or think what you should see, you see a lot more. And if you're not afraid to be in the moment, and if you're not afraid that what's going to be there is something you're going to see, and maybe that's a gift of growing up in a dysfunctional home, because there is a certain point in my home where it just wasn't going to happen, and it fell apart around me. I thought of when you shared, Maria, that living with the old script, and I was freed of that script because it fell apart. Everything that was supposed to happen didn't happen. the life that I was supposed to have, the car I was supposed to get, the homecoming, the this, the that. I mean, the life that was promised to me went away. And I had to live with the life I had. And it was the best thing that in the world for me. I learned to make my own decisions. And I really looked around, and I reached my hand out and I said, what can I do? Because I was, 14? So I can get a job. I got a job. I can make my own money. I can join the church choir. I can change schools so I can get myself there and not depend on my parents who were not dependable. I can make friends. I can read poetry. I can buy the books I can afford, soft cover, it's the same words inside. I can sew. I can sew pretty clothes. I did what I could do. And then it just kept getting better. But I didn't wait to be helped. I helped myself. I moved out. To protect myself, I moved out. So I think those experiences make me feel like I can stand up on my own. And I had to look at a lot in those moments. And I loved the people I was looking at, but they were doing bad things, and some of them to me. And I learned to forgive because I wouldn't have relatives otherwise. I'm not even sure I'd have me, but I think I would have me. But I really, really loved the people who were hurting me. So I learned to forgive, and I think I just have scenes in my mind that were terrible. And I told myself, look at this, because this is who we are now. And they were scary, and they were terrible. And I made myself, I remember turning away and then just saying, look at this, because this is happening, and you've got to look at it. And I don't know why I did, but I think it influences this now, because in this work, I look at what's going on, and I don't turn away. So my container, and I also don't take responsibility. The people who do dramas are doing their dramas, not mine. So it's their work, not mine. I'm there to just hold the stage. My goals, and I think the other thing is I don't have very high goals. I remember working with Sharon one time, and we were in, it was an early work, in group work, and I was, young therapist, and we were working with all these families, and they were scary, and I was saying, well, so what do you, and I thought she'd say, do this brilliant thing or that brilliant thing, and she said, if you just get these families in the same room and they talk to each other, that's going to be a huge accomplishment. I thought, I can do that. I can sit in the room and wait for them to talk to each other or facilitate it. So that freed me up as a therapist tremendously. And praying freed me up tremendously to understand that I'm not in this alone, nor should I be. That would be a dangerous place to think I was as a therapist. I don't think I have to have the answers. I think my job is to help you find the answers for yourselves. So I really don't, and I don't even want to have your answers. I think my children would laugh if they heard me say that, since I'm always telling them all kinds of answers. But mostly I want them to find their own, and they know that. They know that. And I want you to find your own.
I did the social atom and then moved it into action. And the one individual said, oh, I've done this psychodrama so many times, and I just don't feel it's done, so I want to do this again with this. So she reversed roles. She got to the two individuals that she needed to deal with that involved one of the brothers choking the other one. And she got to the end of it, and she said, well, I just don't know if it's done. I said, well, what do you need to do here? What do you want from them? Reverse roles with them. And she came up with, I think I'll apologize to my sister for that, in the role of the brother. And she goes, oh my God, that's the piece that's been missing.
Yeah.
It was very straightforward. It was very
Yeah.
simple. She needed an apology from
Yes.
him.
She reversed roles with her brother and apologized to herself.
Yes.
That's the beauty of psychodrama. You can do it from any angle. You can get what you didn't get. And the brain does accept it as a corrective template. It's a new experience, and you experience it, so it's there as a memory, even though it didn't happen in real life. You really can't always get exactly what you want in life, but you can get it on stage. So it's a great example.
So what would you recommend in terms of teaching the clients on not trying to explain it to other people outside the, you know?
Just don't try to explain it to other people. They won't get what happened here.
Just
don't worry about
keep it simple, you're saying.
Keep it simple. If you get complicated, there's no end to that road, in my experience. Just keep it. Don't worry about explaining it. They'll see if you've got change, if you've changed personally, show them, don't tell them. You can go out and change yourself, be a model. You want them to know you've changed, change. Otherwise, people want to go in and they come out with this therapy high and they get mad because everybody's not acting like the people in their group acted, and it's frustrating. And I think it's best if they don't try to get into a lot of, this is what I did there. Just focus on changing themselves. People will notice, but it's the long answer, but it's the best answer. But you can't really tell somebody what happens in a psychodrama. You got to be there.
Thanks.
Not a better answer than that I have in all the years I've done it. Does anybody else have a better answer?
In terms of the protagonist, if you try to explain it too much, I think it's kind of a form of resistance to the change too, as the protagonist. As any psychoanalytic therapy is.
Say more about that.
Say more about. Well, you have the experience in any psychoanalytic session. That's a sacred room where you're working through things and discovering things. And if you bring it home to tell your wife or husband, you're changing the dynamic of what happened, and you're making it about the exchange between you two. And that's about something else.
That's the right answer. And there was one question about, I get tied up in the questions on the spectrogram. I think you asked that earlier. Just go by the book. Just go by the book. Use the ones that are in the book.
The living stage? The living stage?
They're in the living stage. They're in the RTR manual. I always list questions. Just use the ones that are in the book. Don't try to do more than the group can handle. There's no need to think them up yourself unless you are comfortable with that and are good at that. And always ask the group if you want to too. What's the question? What would you like to explore? They'll come up with stuff. Or even before you do it, if your groups get to really understand spectrograms, say, so what questions you want to look at on a spectrogram today? And they'll give you questions. So if you just don't think of it all as having to come out of your head, that's one of the downfalls of the experiential work. This is not meant to come out of your head. It's meant to grow out of the moment.
So do you recommend that you have a co-facilitator with you or a co-leader, or should just be one leader facilitating?
Well, Moreno's concept is that each person in a group becomes the therapeutic agent of the other. And the way I work is I make everybody co-leaders. That's how I work in my mind. I consider that I'm in a group of co-leaders because at any given time, somebody's going to be in a better position to help that person than others. I find that easier. Sometimes co-leading enriches the experience, and sometimes it just complicates it. And I've had both experiences. So the way I solved it, I looked in the room one day and I thought, what am I worried about a co-leader for? Everybody's co-leader. It works for me. Yeah. Any other questions like this? While we're digesting, it's a good time to do this. Yeah.
So much of this work seems to be focusing on things that happened in the past or relative past, how do you cope with somebody in your current life who's triggering you and driving you crazy, but you can't associate them to any other relationship in the past? They just make you nuts. How do you get at that?
Well, I mean, I'm tempted to say, there's always I mean, unless somebody's really sitting over you and has the key to your room and locks you in at night, there's a way to find a mental position to not be driven nuts.
To not what?
Not be driven too nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, the solution's internal. So I would start my work with somebody with that in mind. That's the only thing I can really help them with, is a shift in their own perception. Even, or, you know, distance from a person. There's no reason to stay engaged with somebody who drives you nuts. Unless it's a boss or somebody you have to, but yeah, you've got a good answer, Bev. Please. Here.
Having the person center in the being of the person who's driving them crazy. And on my experience, even with addicts in early recovery, you know, unless they're profoundly thoughtless disordered, if they can step into it, they can speak from the perspective and get the heart sometimes of the person that they're struggling with, and they actually know a lot more about that person and what's causing that dynamic than it would appear in the surface. You know, like a lot of times if we're bringing residents in and we want to know how their wife has been impacted, and first they'll say, I don't know. And I'll have them sit in the identity of the wife, and I'm astounded what they will tell me from her perspective. They actually know. So they can deliver up that information from that position, in my experience, more than you would think.
Okay, that leads us right into our next.
Okay.
Thank you, Bev. Let's just talk about doubling and role reversal. Maybe we won't use chairs. We'll be more mobile if we don't. So I guess we'll need two people, but this won't necessarily be to do a psychodrama. But if you're warmed up to something, come on up if you want to. These are the things you have to work with, and fall back on them, and don't get inventive, is my experience. Because when you're in a role play, it's like fly fishing. It's like slippery rocks. It's slippery in there. I mean, after years of doing it, it does not feel slippery, to me, and it will eventually not to you. But I would say, but I still operate by these principles. I don't think about how to get out of a situation. I rely on my techniques. And the techniques you have are talk to, not about. You stay in the present, talk to, not about. You have role reversal, doubling, and role reversal interviewing. You also have soliloquy. I use that less. But so start talking to, who do you want this person to be?
My mother.
Okay, so say a couple lines.
So I feel very afraid for you, and I worry about you a lot.
Okay.
Or I feel scared when it seems like you can't take care of yourself.
That's clear as a bell. There's nothing for me to do with that, right? It's maybe not as easy for a teaching example because it's clear.
Okay.
No, that's good. I'm just saying, stay with yourself.
Okay.
But because you were so clear from the role of daughter, what's my next option? Reverse roles. So because she didn't ask a direct question, but she said something specific, and I need more information. I don't know what's bothering her about her mother. I don't know her mother. So my next obvious option is, right, it's like a game. It's like, which way do you can't there, you stay in the, in what's next, reverse roles.
I feel very scared when I see you not taking care of yourself.
Again, perfectly done. She gave her the last line. That's how I work. Because if people start making up from here, they're adding to, what they're doing is they're interfering with the protagonist's warm-up, in my experience. The protagonist is warmed up. She said something. We just need to hear now. This is still the protagonist. It's her drama we're doing. So if we don't want a role player who's going to do more than Ruth did, because it'll interfere with her warm-up. She'll have to then take care of the role player and answer back of all the things that the role player did, right? You're nodding. This is a common issue, right? The way I get around it is just give her last line. It makes me feel very uninventive. It makes me feel like I'm controlling the auxiliary egos, but it's my first allegiance is to the protagonist. It's up to me to keep, she's the most vulnerable. She needs to be kept safe. She needs to focus on herself. Because if she loses her warm-up, it's not going to be good for anybody. But it's certainly not going to be good for her. But it's going to make my job harder too. Is that all clear? Okay, what are some of the ways in which, do you know what I'm saying when I say make it up? Do we need a demonstration of that?
Maybe a demonstration.
Okay, so do you want to demonstrate just taking it in a direction that, yeah. Okay, let's actually start from the beginning, because you say something and you're warming up. This is part of her warming up.
Okay.
Just say what you said, the last line.
Okay. I feel scared when it seems like you can't take care of yourself.
Feel that warm up, feel that connection being made, feel that reverse roles.
I feel very scared when I see you not taking care of yourself. It makes me kind of crazy. I wonder if the roof's going to collapse in our home. Sort of it's really spiraling out of control. There's never any dinner on the table. And my poor little brother doesn't get his nappy changed.
That's a perfect example. And it happens a lot, right? And how does it feel to be on the other side of that?
I'm laughing because it's so true. Like.
This is a whole new problem.
I mean, he's 33.
But he's still. Okay, so this is the new level of problem. No, actually, this is very relevant because here's the seductive part. The reason people choose who they choose, and we didn't even choose Ruth, but it's an operation because Ruth's so good at this. Taylor, if you look around the room and I say ask you to play somebody play your mother, would you hold that?
Certainly.
You'll look around the room and choose somebody who you're pulled towards choosing for that role. So chances are what comes out of her mouth might be right on. So it's very tempting to let it come out. So here's my advice. Don't let it come out initially. If it's confusing the protagonist and it's lowering her warm-up, keep it moving because it's not in service of the protagonist. If it's in service of the protagonist that this person's getting it right and you can feel that, step back and let the magic happen. If you've got therapists who know how to translate therapeutic goals through a role, you've got co-leaders because they're giving the protagonist something from this role you can't possibly give as the director. That's golden. In my groups where are used to each other, I sometimes do very little because everybody knows the drill and everybody's just healing each other. I sometimes just stand back and watch and just love to watch because they're so clever and they're so talented. So if that's the case, by all means, enjoy it. If it's not, if it starts to go off over here, your guideline is this in service of the protagonist? Okay? And if it's driving you nuts, chances are it's driving the protagonist. But you can also check it out if Ruth were doing that, although it was really a good job of doing a bad job. So you could also say, does that feel right? to you? Would mom really say that? That's what I often do. Would mom really act like that? And if they tell you yes, okay, if they say no, is this clear? So these are the pitfalls, even in a vignette. When you double, and when you invite group members to double for the protagonist or the protagonist in role reversal. Right now she's in role reversal. So if I double for her, I'm doubling for her as her mother. I'm trying to bring forward the mother should not be saying that we need to stay within the framework of within the distortion, within that parataxic distortion. That's what we're putting on the stage. We're not putting anything recovered on the stage. This isn't a how-to. This is a moment to unpack the problem, right? So if you're in the mother role and you're acting like a different person, that's not where we're going. And a lot of times, let's reverse you back. A lot of times what will happen is you'll put somebody in the mother role and they'll be a total goody-goody and they'll be trying to be nice. They'll be trying to give this protagonist the mother they didn't get. They will be uncomfortable playing the role. They'll feel mean. That's not what you want. You want someone to give the protagonist exactly what they got. That's what's going to be healing because that's what they never dealt with. That's where they went silent. So you want somebody willing to really play this role. And if they are not willing to, you just say, is this tough for you? Do you need a break? Okay, thanks. Choose again. Don't shame anybody, don't anything, but do get them a new role player if they can't meet that moment. Is that clear? We don't want to make it up. We're working with what's in this person's head. Because when we're doing neuropsychodrama, we're doing surgical brain work. This is only characters in the play. We've got our instruments in here. And if we go like this and somebody pops out who's completely a different person and coming from a different place and trying to teach this person who they should have been or ought to be, yeah, we're going to hemorrhage, or we're going to, it's not what we're doing. We're working with the framework of this protagonist, and that's it. And if somebody wants to teach from this role or do anything else, change it. Yeah, Maria. Yeah, I think so, yeah.
I often get, when I'm working with people who haven't done a lot of this as clients, they will become uncomfortable because they feel like we're making it up. Like, even in the role reversal, even if it's the protagonist who's in the role reversal, it still feels like, well, they don't really know what their own mother's double was. And I have my answer to that, but I'm...
What's your answer? Let's hear
your answer. Well, I tell them it doesn't matter if it feels like we're making it up, because what we care about is what the protagonist's experience of their mother was, because that's their reality of it. That's one end of the dialectic. And the other end is we don't want to be reversing roles with a caricature. So in the double, we actually do want as closely as possible to approximate the actual experience of, in this case, your mother.
Who lives inside of her. The interjected mother.
The interjected mother. If we can only get as close as we can get. Yeah. And just being aware of the limitations of that helps. You can't be, to be honest, I use this a lot to support the DBT skills training. So we're trying to teach interpersonal effectiveness, and you can be much more, I use just a role reversal to help them develop empathy for the other person, because you can't be very effective in how you communicate if you can't put yourself in the other person's shoes, just on a very practical level. So if I sense that in role reversal it's just a caricature, I'll just tell them, I'm not sure you're really reversing roles, and that may be as much as you can do for today, that's fine. Let's just know that that's going to limit how effective you can be. Until you can actually find that place of empathy for the other person, we can give you a script, but it's, so kind of accepting the limitations of it.
I love that. And I think one of the experiential ways to get underneath this, I'm sure you do it, Maria, is when you reverse roles, let's say you reverse roles, and you don't seem like you're getting so close, right, to develop the empathy you're talking about, the first thing I would try is let's stand behind mom. Double for what you think might be going on underneath mom's experience. And sometimes if somebody can't get it from there, I'll say, let's try doubling for the double. And if we can't get it there, then we would just get as far as we can get, as you're saying. But here's another little technique. This is fun, if they can do it. And oftentimes people can. When you're in role reversal as your mother, I'll say, may I ask you a few questions?
Sure.
What's your name?
Rosa. Rosa.
Rosa, why do you think, what's your name?
Lilit.
Lilit. Why do you think Lilit brought you here today?
Well, because she's, she thinks she knows everything and is trying to save the family. But I'm doing okay. I know what I'm doing. I'm fine. I'm fine. She has some issues she needs to work out.
I get it.
Yeah.
She probably does. I mean, but, I'm wondering, so, okay, assuming she does have plenty of issues she needs to work out, what's she worried about in you? Do you have any sense of it? You're a smart lady.
Well, yeah, my son, I know my son is a drug addict.
Oh.
Yes, and my husband just died. So, yeah.
Talk to that person empathically. Flatter them.
So I know she's afraid for me just because my son is living with me again. But this time it's different, and he's different. He's only drinking. He's not doing drugs.
Okay, so
Yeah.
he's made some progress.
Yeah, and he's so smart. He's an incredibly intelligent
Runs
guy.
in the family.
Stanford wanted to recruit him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And was the alcohol in the way?
Yes. Yeah.
That's tough.
Yes.
How do you feel? I mean, just keep, and when I say flatter, what I mean to say is not flatter, but appeal to her native intelligence. Appeal to the person inside of her who knows she has the answer.
Yeah.
And then you might even get her a chance. What do you think of Lily?
Oh, I think she's amazing. I think she's done so well for herself, and she's great.
So we're not getting much from her there. Where usually what you'll get is, more often than not, you'll get somebody answering back just like the mother, because they want to call the mom out. This is a way they can do it effectively, honestly, actually. I mean, but is this how your mother acts?
She does. She goes both.
Okay, so let's get another version. Why do you think Lily brought you here today?
Because, well, she thinks there's a problem, but there isn't any problems here. She's constantly worrying about everyone else. She needs to worry about herself. You're not even married yet. You're not even married. You don't have any kids. You're only getting older.
Oh my God.
I mean, why can't you learn from my own mistakes?
You're worried about me?
You're worried about me? Look at yourself.
Oh my God,
Yeah, you're a mess. I mean, I tell you to wear other colors but black, and you won't, and you just always look miserable. You're not happy. You're only happy around other people because you don't care about your family.
There's more to work with. Right?
Yeah.
There the psychodrama begins. Reverse roles.
Oh.
What do you want? So our contract here isn't to do your work. Do you want to do a little more, or do you want? Should we
I
just
could do a
use this
little.
as a teacher? Huh?
Yeah, I could do a little more.
You don't need
Just-
to.
Okay.
It's just I don't want to leave you hanging.
Whichever way you feel it should go.
Well, what's more useful to the group? The teaching, huh? Go with it? Okay, go with it. And we're going to use role reversal, doubling for the protagonist, or the protagonist in another role. We don't double for the role players. Too confusing. They feel ganged up on, the protagonist does. And we're going to use role reversal interview. If I need to, I may pull her out for a walk and talk. Other than that, we're on the stage. We're going to use space, distance, and closeness. If mom feels big and she feels small, I might say something like, why don't you go on your knees and let mom be big, so use what you've got. Use space, use distance and closeness, use the techniques. You don't need to make it up. It's all right here. What do you want to say back to Mom? She's worried about you.
Well, Mom, I feel that I think that I'm doing the best that I can, and I mean, I got into this field to help the family. It makes me sad that you can't see that. And I just want to have a relationship with you. But I don't know how I'm trying, but it's always to help Victor, or when Dad was alive, to help Dad, and it's like I'm a surrogate. And I wish you were able to live the life that you wanted and that you had. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
If this part of you could talk, what would it say?
I'm pissed. Why can't you just see? I know you don't want to be alone. You're not alone. But unless your son is better, you won't ever be better. And I'm helpless. There's nothing I can do. I love you. But I'm also tired. I'm just tired, and I see that I have to pull away. That's so fucking scary.
That's so scary. Do you want to move with this? It's going to go past this. It's up to you. Be honest. Be honest. It's your day. Okay, so who could play your brother? Who could play Dad?
He can play my dad, my brother.
And where are they in relationship to you and Mom? Move them onto this. Use the stage. Move everybody into where they are.
They're at her hip. Well, my father's deceased, so.
Okay. So do we want to let him? Are you comfortable lying on the floor? Are you comfortable lying on the floor? Sure. Is that okay?
Yeah.
And where on the floor is he lying? Where in this space is he lying?
Here.
Okay. There you go. And where are choose someone to play you? And where are you in this configuration?
Where am I?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm here. I feel like I'm here.
You feel like you're there. Okay. And you just witness for now, from out here. Who do you want to talk to?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Well, my brother, I guess I could start with.
You looked down at Dad.
I did, yeah, that was my instinct.
And
I did it.